Welcome to PropQuiz, the live game show where we find out which pilots you shouldn't bet against in a cruise ship trivia game. I'm Ethan Berg. I'll be the one cheating this evening by reading all the answers off my teleprompter. Our first two episodes put some of aviation's most well-known flight instructors head-to-head, and now we're moving on to private pilots. He's the only pilot whose blood is more avgas than coffee, and the pilot in command of YouTube's Just Plain Silly. From Denton, Texas, we have Bryan Turner. Next, we have the only pilot I've met who's played a game of chicken with an MD-80 and won. It's Bloomington, Indiana's Tyler Beevers. And last but certainly not least, he's one of aviation's newest pilots and flies out of my hometown airport in Kennesaw, Georgia, Mr. Chris LaPierre. Welcome, everybody. You already know the drill. We have 2 rounds of 15 questions worth 10 points each. Only the first person to guess can earn up to 10 points, and whomever wins goes home with our $500 cash prize. The runner-up takes home the $200. We've got a fun game ahead of us tonight. Let's not delay. Here we go into round 1. Our first question, prop quiz tonight. In terms of temperature per 1,000 feet, what is the dry adiabatic lapse rate?
It
Bryan.
is 5.38 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 degrees Celsius.
That is correct. 5.38 degrees. I was waiting to see if if the ding was going to go off, but yes, absolutely. That's the first 10 points on the board in tonight's episode. Welcome, Bryan. I'm going to talk to you in just a few minutes, but let's go ahead and take a look at our second question. What is the standard height of Class D airspace? Tyler.
2,500 feet.
Can you elaborate?
AGL.
Need a little bit more than that. AGL is correct. 2,500 feet. AGL, absolutely. MSL wouldn't really work out if you're in some place like Denver, where ground level's a bit higher than 2,500 MSL. Absolutely.
True.
With 26 kills, this pilot was the highest scoring Marine ace in World War II. What was his name? Chris.
All I got is Ace Frehley.
Not Ace Frehley, no, sir. I'm sorry. Anybody else? Highest scoring Marine ace. All right, if nobody is going to buzz in, I'm going to go ahead and move us on. It is Greg or Pappy Boyington. Pappy Boyington was the answer. Nobody getting that question right, but we already do have Bryan and Tyler tied for 10 points on the board tonight. Let's continue on and see if Chris catches up. Who was the first American to orbit the Earth in a spacecraft? First American to orbit the Earth in a spacecraft. It doesn't look like we have anybody willing to stake their reputation on this one. This one, it was going to be John Glenn. John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth in a spacecraft. Sorry, but what happened there? What was going through y'all's head?
Seemed too easy.
Froze up?
That seemed too easy.
That seemed way too easy.
Before you read the question, if you'll just say Alexa really loud, that would help me out a great deal. Yeah, if we could just do that.
I wonder how that would work. I wonder if it would actually do that. I have half a mind to try that now, but I know Russ is screaming in the background going, no, don't do that. All right. What are the landing currency requirements for a pilot in a tailwheel airplane? Bryan.
I believe it's 3 in the last 90 days to a full stop.
Yes, indeed. 3 full stop within 90 days to carry passengers. Yes, indeed. So, Bryan, of course, everybody knows you as Just Plain Silly. You're a very well-known aviation YouTuber out there because you don't just post training videos or things like that. You post going out there and having fun in the world of aviation. Go out there flying with your family, getting to go do neat things and see the world from a different angle. What made you decide to start a YouTube channel for aviation?
You're mistaken. It's training videos that I'm making. If you think they're not training, I don't know. Maybe you're not a good student. No, I started the channel just to prove a point to some people that were being mean to me online. I was online and I flew a plane, and then I started flying a Cirrus, and all the people who liked me when I flew a plane got mad. And so I just said, I'm just going to make this video about this dumb pilot that you guys think can't fly. And then a friend of mine said, dude, get off my Facebook page. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, this video that you made is everywhere. And then so I just kept doing it. So it was really just something I did to share with a bunch of people on a forum, and then the internet did its thing, and now here I am.
You beat the YouTube algorithm. You win. You win the world.
Sure.
Well, it's good to have you, Bryan. Thanks so much. Let's take a look at our next question, everybody. On a sectional chart, what color is the symbol for a non-towered airport? Tyler.
That would be maroon.
Maroon?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and accept it. It's magenta. Magenta is
Magenta.
Maroon's a little bit more of a brown color, I think. Unless, I totally have my colors mixed up. But technically the term is magenta. Yes, sir. Tyler, let's talk to you real quick. Introduce yourself a little bit. You're a new pilot, right? You're just getting into aviation. What made you fall in love with it?
Been around aviation all of my life. Actually, my dad is an ag pilot. He just retired 2 years ago as an ag pilot down in Louisiana. And so I've been around airplanes all my life. But yes, I started working on my private last year, and I'm about 30 days away from a check ride now. So.
Well, good for you, man. Good for you. Congratulations. I know Chris just had his check ride just about a month ago, and we'll see how that went in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, let's see if you know the answer to this question, Tyler. Chuck Yeager first broke the sound barrier in this airplane. What's it called? Chris.
X-11.
No, sir. Not the X-11. Bryan.
The Bell X1.
It is the Bell X1, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Putting you back in the lead
ones.
with 25 points. Yeah, yeah. Well, you won too many ones. Exactly.
Many
Lots of
ones.
ones in there. Alrighty. The AIM, AIM, is a very important publication for pilots. What do those letters stand for? Bryan.
Aeronautical Information Manual.
It is Aeronautical Information Manual. It used to be called the Airman's Information Manual until a few years ago. They updated it as now the Aeronautical Information Manual. Yes, sir. Chris, let's talk to you real quick because, like we said, before I get too far off the beaten path here with Tyler getting ready to go for his check ride, you just took your check ride out here out of Kennesaw. First of all, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. So I just took
appreciate you being
just
here.
had my check ride about a month ago. It was actually out of Alabama. Enjoying it, just enjoying flying right now.
How'd you get into flying?
Well, I mean, it's been a lifelong dream. Before this past year starting, originally moved to school to Florida for Embry-Riddle, in which I decided not to go at some point. However, as life made turns, but a year ago I took an introductory flight out of Florida to fly at the beach while my son and I were down there, and I came home and I said, "That's it. I'm putting my feet to the ground and scraping that bank account, figuring out how we're going to do it." And here we are.
Fantastic. Sounds like all your milestone flights aren't actually here in Georgia, though. Well, you're abandoning us over here. Alrighty. Let's move on. On a Garmin G1000 panel, what does the large red button in the center do? Bryan.
Parachute. Makes the parachute come out. Is that not it? I've never used a G1000. I had to try.
No, I think we'd have too many false alarms of little kids going, "Ooh, what does this do?"
Oh.
Anybody else? What does the big red button in the center of the G1000 do? Tyler.
Yeah, never use a G1000, but I'll just go with power.
It is not. The reversionary mode, I'll go ahead and let you all know, the reversionary mode is what the big red button does. And what that does is, the G1000's got two big, or in some cases three, but two big flight displays in front of both front seats. And if for some reason one fails, you press that button to go into reversionary mode, and both screens now display the exact same thing. The navigation, all your gauges, the engine instruments, all of that stuff. So no matter which display fails, you're able to still see everything you need to know to safely operate the airplane. And the other hidden use for that is if you got somebody flying in the right seat, they don't want to have to be looking over here to see what's going on. They can hit that, and everything they need is right in front of them. All right.
That's cool.
We currently have, looking at our scoreboard, Bryan in the lead with 35 points, Tyler with 20. Chris isn't yet on the board, but he's got plenty of time to catch up. Let's take a look at this next question. Regarding weight and balance, what is the point on the airplane called from which measurements originate? Chris.
The datum plane.
It is the datum, absolutely, and welcome onto the scoreboard. Bryan with 35, Tyler with 20, Chris with 10. Yes, indeed. Welcome to the game. Like I said, you've got plenty of time to catch up. Don't worry about it. Known for his aviation adventures with his niece, Penny, who is this man? Chris.
Looks like Roy Rogers.
Not Roy Rogers.
The only thing I have.
Sir.
Buying.
Anybody else? Who is this man? Tyler.
Yeah, complete guess. Gene Autry.
Not Gene Autry, no sir. We'll let it go for just a couple more seconds. See, Bryan.
Niece Penny, that's going to be Uncle Gadget. I used to watch that show when I was a kid.
No sir, no Go-Go Gadget. Oh, that would be fun. Alrighty, nope, not Go-Go Gadget. That was Sky King, Kirby Grant. Kirby Grant or Sky King. You're landing with a crosswind from the right. What would be the appropriate position for the right aileron? Gonna make you think here. Tyler.
The appropriate position for the right aileron would be up.
Right aileron up, putting the wing down. That is correct. You didn't have to think nearly as hard as I did for that one. But you are catching up to Bryan here now. You're only 5 points behind him. Great job, Tyler. You're landing on runway 9. The wind is from 120 degrees at 24 knots. What is your crosswind component? School started across parts of Georgia this week, and now it's time for you to do math. Sorry. Bryan.
Yes, total guess. 10 knots.
Not 10 knots, no sir.
Got one of these too. Don't know how to use it, but I got one.
Want to hazard a guess? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Chris.
I'll say 8.
Not 8. Tyler.
I'm gonna go with 11.
No sir, dancing all around it. It was 12. 12 knots. I'm going to give you a little tip here. You didn't actually have to do math with that. It's a little bit of a tricky question. If the wind, this tip only works if the wind is 30 degrees off the nose, but you're taking off from runway 9, so you're basically heading 90 degrees. Wind's coming from 120 degrees, so that's 30-degree offset. If the wind is 30 degrees off the nose, your wind component is half of the total speed. So it's half of the wind speed. So if the wind speed's 24, you just slice that in half, and it's 12 knots. 12 knots is the crosswind component in this case. So a little bit of a trick there, so you don't ever have to think about math. But again, that only works if wind is 30 degrees off of the nose. All right, well, better luck with this next question. Who was this famous but fictional barnstormer played by Robert Redford? Chris.
I'm sorry, I don't know, except that it could be Red Baron.
Not Red Baron, no sir. Anybody else? Going once. Going twice. 3 times. 4. Distracting you. All right, everybody, let's move on. The correct answer here is Waldo Pepper. Waldo Pepper was played by Robert Redford. Sorry about that, guys. Looks like we picked some tricky questions tonight. You're planning a cross-country flight for tomorrow. What kind of weather briefing should you get today? Tyler.
Standard briefing.
No, sir. Chris.
Oh boy, I was going to say that, so now I'm going to say the Outlook.
Outlook briefing is correct. Yes, sir. There are 3 types of briefings. Outlook is the one looking to tomorrow. There's the end of round 1 with Bryan in the lead, 35 points. We're going to take a quick break, come back with round 2. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Russ Still, and I'm your Chief Flight Instructor here at Gold Seal. Gold Seal is a comprehensive ground school covering everything from your FAA knowledge test to your final check ride. It's quite different from any other private pilot program. We mix exciting video with interactive segments and 3D animations. These may be in the airplane, in the hangar, or in a virtual 3D world. The result is a 21st century teaching machine that pulls you in and makes you a part of the experience. Now, one question that I frequently get is, what's the best way to save money during flight training? The answer to that is an absolute. Study at home. Before you go to a flight lesson with your flight instructor, study the ground school lesson really well. Not only will your CFI be impressed, he'll spend a lot less time trying to explain what you need to accomplish. And this means that you'll be paying him a lot less money. If you do your homework with Gold Seal, you will save cold, hard cash.
Pass your written test and your check ride with Gold Seal, the Internet's #1 ground school. Take a free test drive today and see how much fun learning to fly can be at onlinegroundschool.com.
Welcome back to PropQuiz. Before the break, Bryan took the lead with 35 points, leaving Tyler with 30 and Chris with 15. We're done with our buzz-in questions now. We're switching over to multiple choice. Each question has 4 choices, A through D, and everyone gets to answer at once. When they're done, we'll reveal what they chose. Remember, your clearance only lasts for 10 seconds, guys. 10 seconds per question, so no delay. Let's get going. Here is your first question for round 2. What resource should a pilot reference to learn information about a public use airport? A, the FSDO, B, the AIM, C, the NTAP, or D, the AFD? All right, we're going to start our reveals in round 2 off with Bryan. Bryan, you said D, the AFD. That is absolutely correct. Yes, sir, bringing you up to 45 points, the first 10 points of round 2 tonight. Let's see Tyler now. Tyler said D as well. The AFD, or Airport Facility Directory, that is also correct. And lastly, over to Chris. Chris, you said D as well. First answer of round 2 tonight, and everybody clearing the board with it. Great job. Let's continue on and keep this ball rolling. Which V-speed is not indicated on the airspeed indicator? A, VNO, B, VNE, C, VS, or D, VA? Which V-speed is not indicated on the airspeed indicator? Tyler, let's start with you. You said D, the VA. That is correct. Yes, indeed. Next, we're going on to Bryan. Bryan, you said A. Afraid not. Sorry about that. Lastly, over to Chris. Chris, you also said D. VA. Absolutely
Bringing up the
correct.
back.
VA is maneuvering speed. Maneuvering speed. Yeah, absolutely. Megan, you are catching up. Alrighty, let's continue on. The highest scoring ace in World War I was whom? A. Rickenbacker. B. Goring. Yeah, sorry, I thought there was another N there. C. Richthofen. Or D. Gagarin. Let's see which of our contestants knows how to read better than I do. Let's start with Tyler. Tyler, you said A. I'm afraid not. No, sir. Over now to Bryan. Bryan, you also said A. I'm afraid not. You two are on the same reading level as I am. Lastly, over to Chris. Chris, you said C. Richthofen. That is correct.
Christmas trees.
Absolutely. You are the winner of today's reading comprehension. Congratulations. Alrighty, gentlemen, let's continue on. Which type of flap system provides the least amount of lift? A. Plain flaps. B. Slotted flaps. C. Split flaps. Or D. Fowler flaps. All right, which flap system provides the least lift? Chris, let's start with you. You said D. No, sir. Not D. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's go to Tyler. Tyler, you also said D. I'm sorry, no. Lastly, over to Bryan. Bryan, you said C. Not C. No one gets this one right. It's plain flaps. Plain old flaps produce just a plain old amount of lift. Plain flaps was the answer to this one. What is the latitude at the equator? What is the latitude at the equator? So I'm the person sitting here wondering why nobody's pressing the button to make the music go, and then I realize it's because I'm the person who decided not to read the answer choices. And it's not even Monday, guys. Bryan, you said C. That is the correct answer. Latitude is 0 at the equator. And all the guys in the back of the booth, I'm sorry about that. Chris, you said C as well. And lastly, Tyler, you also said C. Our contestants doing much better here than I am. Clearing the board with this one. We take a look at our scoreboard. Bryan's still in the lead with 55 points, barely hanging on to that lead against Tyler's at 50 and Chris at 35.
Coming for you, Bryan.
Getting there. Getting there.
Let's see if I can remember how to do my job with this next one. What value represents standard temperature at sea level? A, 29 degrees Fahrenheit. B, 15 degrees Fahrenheit. C, 59 degrees Celsius. Or D, 15 degrees Celsius. The value represents standard temperature at sea level. Bryan, you said C. No, sir. No, indeed. Let's go over now to Tyler. D, 15 degrees Celsius. That is right. Yes, sir. And over now to Chris. Chris, you got it. D. Yes, indeed. Indeed. See what I did there? Ha, 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 ha. My sense of humor sucks. But in the meantime, Bryan is tied now for the lead with 55 points with Tyler. Chris at 40. And you both better watch up because Chris is catching up pretty quickly here. In 1947, the infamous Spruce Goose made its only flight. Who was the pilot? A, David Tennant. B, Howard Cosell. C, Nate Tennant. Or D, Howard Hughes. In 1947, the infamous Spruce Goose made its only flight. Who was its pilot? Bryan, you said D, Howard Hughes. Yes, indeed. Tyler, you said D as well, Howard Hughes. Absolutely. You're just barely behind Bryan now. Chris, you said C. Not Nate Tennant. Nate Tennant's well, Nate Tennant's one of our instructors here at Gold Seal.
Right on.
Not him, although he appreciates the sentiment, I can guarantee you. Let's move on.
The plug.
In the U.S. Navy, In the U.S. Navy, pilots are generally referred to as what? A, skippers, B, aviators, C, tailhooks, or D, drivers? All right, what are pilots generally called in the Navy? Tyler, let's start with you. You said C. No. Sorry.
Really?
Nope. Nope, not C. Bryan, you said B, aviators. Yes, sir. And lastly, over to Chris, B, aviators as well. I'm not sure where Bryan got that hat, but it certainly doesn't apply.
Earned it.
That's all right. You know, I have about just as much business being a game show host. So here we are. Which famous aviation pioneer died in an airplane crash? A, Clyde Cessna, B, Orville Wright, C, Wilbur Wright, or D, Wilfred Brimley? For the record, for those of you wondering why I'm smiling so gleefully in a question about pilots dying, yes, I am a psychopath. Bryan, let's start our reveal with you. You said A. No, sir. Afraid not. Not Clyde Cessna. Tyler, you also said Clyde Cessna. No, sir. And Chris, who did you say? You said B. I'm afraid not. It was Wilbur Wright, the other Wright brother.
The other one.
Yep. Yeah, he wasn't so right that day. Sorry.
No.
Too soon? Too soon.
That helps.
Which airplane is not considered a fighter? A, the C-47, B, the P-39, C, the F-86, or D, the BF-109? Which airplane is not considered a fighter? Bryan, let's start with you. You said A, the C-47. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Next, over to Tyler. Tyler, you said A. And Chris, over to you. You said A as well. The C-47, the military variant of the Douglas DC-3, one of which proudly has our logo plastered across the side of it, if you've seen it. But for those of you who don't know, the C stands for cargo, F stands for fighter, B, most of the time, stands for bomber, but P used to stand for pursuit. That was the precursor to fighter. So that's what those letters mean in front of the aircraft identifiers. Who was the second human to set foot on the surface of the moon? A, John Glenn, B, Neil Armstrong, C, Chuck Yeager, or D, Buzz Aldrin? Who was the second human to set foot on the surface of the moon? Let's start with Chris. Chris, you said D, Buzz Aldrin. That is correct. Absolutely. 10 points to you, sir. You are now just barely behind Tyler. Bryan, you said A. A? Really? God, yeah. Bryan, you were such a disappointment. Jeez.
I've heard it my whole
No,
life.
not. I'm sorry. And then Tyler, you said B. No, sir, it was indeed D, Buzz Aldrin. 10 points over to Chris on that one.
Brush up on my astronauts.
All right.
Alrighty. Which of the following deceased celebrities was a general aviation pilot? Geez, more deaths today. A, Walter Brennan. B, Arthur C. Clarke. C, Arthur Godfrey. Or D, Walter Cronkite. Which of the following deceased celebrities was a general aviation pilot? Bryan, you said D, Walter Cronkite. No, sir. That is not the way it is. Chris, D as well. I'm afraid not. And lastly, Bryan. Bryan, you said D. I'm sorry, Tyler, excuse me. D as well. And I'm
Still
sitting
wrong.
here forgetting people's names. Still wrong. Host is wrong and the contestant's wrong. We're a good match. We're a good match here. All right, guys. What is the only cloud type that may be reported in TAFs? A, lenticular, B, cumulonimbus, C, funnel, or D, nimbus? the only cloud type that is reported in TAFs. Tyler, you said B, cumulonimbus. Absolutely. Bringing you up to 75 points. You guys are all in a game of cat and mouse with each other here. Brian, you also said B, cumulonimbus, bringing you up to 85 points. Good, sir. And lastly, Chris, you said B, cumulonimbus as well. Not sure where I got good sir from. Evidently, top of the morning to you. Pip, pip, cheerio. The Cessna 180. The Cessna 185 model was known as the what? A, the Station Air, B, the Skylane, C, the Skywagon, or D, the Caravan? The Cessna 185 model was known as the what, Chris? You said A.
No, I knew it after I pressed it.
Sorry. Brian, you also said A. Brian, did you also know it after you pressed it?
Absolutely.
Well, you do now. And Tyler, you said B. Sorry, I'm afraid not. It was C, the Skywagon. C, the Skywagon. All right, guys. Our very last question in tonight's game of PropQuiz.
No,
what is
double or nothing.
For a no, you wish. What is required for a VFR aircraft to transit an active military operations area, MOA? A, caution, B, ATC clearance, C, ATC permission, or D, a flight plan? All right, guys, our last reveal of the game. Let's start with Brian. Brian, you said A, caution. Absolutely correct, bringing you up to 95 points. Tyler,
I was afraid that was wrong.
You said, nope, it was right. Tyler, you said A, and you were also right. Excuse me, hiccups. Caution is all that was required. And Chris also said A, error 404.
That one.
Pilot not found.
Needed that one.
All right, guys. So that was the last question of the game, meaning with 95 points. Congratulations, Brian Turner. You are the winner of tonight's episode of PropQuiz. Congratulations to you. Congratulations, like I said, to Brian with 95 points and going home with our $500 cash prize. A great job to Tyler and Chris as well. We'll see Brian again next week as he tries to defend his title against two other private pilots. I'm Ethan Berg. Thanks for watching. Good night.